So today we're going to discuss about his text, which is the Mega Sporting Event Legacies, multifaceted concept. And so all of us have read the text. All of us understands English, and I think all of us speaks at least a little bit of English. And so we'll first have your presentation, and afterwards we'll have some time for questions. Whoever wants to have some questions, just raise your hands at the end. And yeah, you can go. Welcome, Professor, and everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So as I said, I have a small presentation. I'm sorry, I don't speak Portuguese, so I won't be able to speak in Portuguese with you, but in English or in French, if you prefer. But yes, can we show the first slide? Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I see. Yeah, here it is. Maybe you should put it full screen, so it will be nicer for everybody. Okay, and push maybe the character, the photo. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and so I cannot move, but you move for me. So let's go to the next slide immediately. The first slide after this one. So as you know, Olympic legacy is a very much discussed topic since 2000, basically. And although it was used, the word was used, the concept was used already a long time ago, but it's really around the Centennial Games in Atlanta, 1996, that this concept became important and gained attraction in the Olympic system. For example, if you look at the mission statement, I think we called it mission statement of the Atlanta 1996 Games, the Centennial Games, the third point, third objective is to leave a positive physical and spiritual legacy and an indelible mark on Olympic history by staging most memorable Olympic Games ever. At the time, they were using this expression physical and spiritual legacy. Now we would say material and immaterial legacy, but it's basically the same. The idea is to leave something else at the end, after the 15 days, 2 weeks of Olympics, to leave something for the future. Something material and something immaterial, as we will see. The concept was expanded a little bit by the Athens 2004 bid, because at the time they spoke about a legacy for Olympism, that is awarding the games. They were still at the bidding stage at the time. They awarding the games to Athens, according to the bid committee, of course, would be a legacy for Olympism. So it would be great that the games would go to Athens again. You know, the first Olympics in 1896, modern Olympics, took place in Athens. And they were bidding also for the 1996, the Centennial Games, but they lost against Atlanta. And therefore, they felt that it was time in 2004 for the IOC to award the games again to Athens, and it would be a legacy for Olympism. Also, the IOC, this was at the turn of the century, the IOC realized that it was a very important concept, and they introduced it in the Olympic Charter in 2003. And this is where they talk about positive legacy, meaning that there might be some negative legacies, but we don't talk too much about them, but positive legacies for the host cities, region, and countries, the territories which host the Olympics. And starting from this, and this use of the word legacy without too many definitions, there was a lot of research, a lot of scientific articles. Maybe you came across some of them, more than 1,000 Olympic articles on Olympic legacy or legacy in general, and therefore many frameworks, many ways to, next slide. Yes, sorry, I cannot do it myself. Next slide. Many ways to describe legacy. And well, I say 900, but now it's probably more than 1,000. Many complicated frameworks. I would say scientists love complicated frameworks because it makes it easier, or it makes it possible to write a lot about complicated frameworks. I will propose a more simple one, the one which is in this paper that you mentioned, Olympic Legacies, a multifaceted concept, which I wrote quite a long time ago already, following a conference on legacy, which took place in Delhi, New Delhi, in 2012. So let's go to this framework. This is the next slide. It is based on a matrix which which crosses two dimensions: tangible, intangible, physical and spiritual, also personal and territorial, and a third dimension, sport. And this determines eight types of legacies, different types of legacy depending on whether you are tangible, sport, and territorial, or intangible, personal, and sport or not. So we are going to see examples because this is quite theoretical, but let's look at a couple of examples. One is the Seoul 1988 Olympics, which took place in the capital city of South Korea in 1988. Oh, well, no, first I have to explain a little bit more tangible, intangible. Yeah, this is the next slide, sorry. Tangible, intangible is rather easy to understand. Tangible is what you can touch. For example, a sport facility, and here I give the example of the Panathinaik Stadium in Athens, which is still there, which was used for the first modern Olympics in 1896, was used again in 2004, but not for athletics, because as you can see, the shape of the stadium and the shape of the run is not possible today for athletics, but they used it for archery and for the arrival of the marathon. There are other examples, of course, big stadiums like the Bird Nest Stadium in Beijing, which is, of course, a stadium, but also a monument for Beijing. It was set in the Olympic Park, which is right in the main axis of north-south axis of Beijing, capital city of China. So very much more actually than legacy, I would say. This is why sometimes I'm using the word patrimonio, which in English, in Spanish, patrimonio, in French, patrimoine, but in English, heritage. This is why sometimes there are confusion between héritage and heritage. Héritage is French for legacy. And then you've got the intangible legacies, which are more difficult to pinpoint. The best example, I think, is the LA 1984 Foundation, which was founded after the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, with the capital. Part of the capital is made up of the part of the surplus of these games. In 1984, they were the first games which had a surplus, and the surplus was used to fund, in particular, the not all of it, but part of it, this foundation. And this foundation has been doing all kinds of activities, conferences. You see a picture here of this one of his conferences they organized, or debate. Also a library, also a sports program for young people in Southern California. So a very active foundation, still active more than 40 years after the 1984 Olympics. Another example, which is well known for some of you, the SNU Dream Together Master, which is a program which is run by the Seoul National University, the best university in Korea, and also was founded at the beginning on the occasion of the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, Korea. And this program has started a few years before Pyeongchang 2018 and is continuing now. And it is legacy, if you want, of the Pyeongchang 2018 Games, still supported by the Korean government, but less than in the past, and now self-supported because it's a successful program. So tangible, intangible is rather clear. Let's go now to the next slide, that is territorial, personal legacies. Territorial are things that are left in the territory, which are not going to move. And personal are things which will move with the persons involved in personal legacy. So 2 examples here again. The first one on top is the Bergisel ski jump, which is in Innsbruck. Innsbruck is a small city in Austria, which hosted the 1964, 1976 Olympics, Winter Olympics, and also the 2010, 2012 Youth Olympics, Winter Youth Olympics. This ski jump was built for the 1964 Olympics and used again, of course, in 1976 and in 2012. But it has evolved. As you can see now, it has a top, which is very attractive cafe overlooking the city of Innsbruck. If you go to Innsbruck, I advise you to go there because there's an absolutely beautiful view of the city and the mountains around the city. You can go, of course, by a lift. You don't have to walk. And this addition was built by a star architect. And now this Bergisel, which was only a sports facility, now is a monument for Innsbruck, and it's there. It's going to stay there. It is territorial. Another thing, like the medals of this guy, you know who this guy is Mark Spitz, who won 7 gold medals at the 1972 Olympics in swimming. Of course, 7 medals is not that much nowadays. There are athletes who have won more medals, but at the time it was totally new. And this guy is an American from California, and after the games in Munich in 1972, he went back to his country and his place, that is, if I'm not mistaken, Southern California, like San Jose or something. Well, anyhow, this is personal. This belongs to him. It is not territorial. It was awarded in Munich 1972, but after the games in Munich, he left. And therefore, these are personal memories. And this is why we can talk about personal legacies. So now we come to the framework. We are going to cross the 2 dimensions I've just explained. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, and we will use the example of something as, I think there is another one. Well, anyhow, this is the example. Okay, let's not go too fast. Okay, tangible, intangible, territorial, personal, sport. This is the matrix I have proposed. Now we have an example of tangible territorial sport. First one, which is the Seoul Olympic Park. Can you put the first, yeah, this is it. You know, if you've been to Seoul, this is a very urban city, very few parks, very little greenery. But this is one of the places where you have a park. It's called the Olympic Park. It's left from the 1988 Olympics in Seoul. As you can see, there is a small lake, a lot of trees and gardens, but also a lot of sport facilities, which were maintained by the city of Seoul and are still in use. So this is a tangible legacy attached to the territory of Seoul. It's not going to move, of course. Now, another example, tangible, personal, and sport, if you want. This is the Olympic torch. which was used in Seoul. At the time of the torch relay of Seoul, the organizers gave a torch to each bearer of the torch relay. So these people kept, of course, the torch. It's a valuable souvenir, of course. They are collectors. You can even sell it. It's quite expensive, but it's personal. Many of these torch bearers didn't stay in Seoul or didn't stay in Korea, and they have this souvenir at their place. It's personal. Another example, it's a practice of English by Korean people, which has improved a lot since 1988. At the time, English was not spoken, almost not spoken at all in Seoul, like in China sometimes also. Now it is quite common among the educated people, of course, and this is personal because all these people who speak English, they might not stay in Seoul, of course, they might be elsewhere in Korea or even abroad, but it's intangible. It's a skill that they learned and that they can enjoy for themselves as a personal skill. Another intangible but territorial is called the Hallyu wave, the K wave. I don't know if you are aware of K-pop. This is this music which is very popular. Many groups, many boys band, girls band, and this is of course very strong now. It's not only in music; it's also series, film, movies, and literature even. But it started slowly but surely in 1988, because Korea in 1988 or before 1988 was a very poor country, very developing country, and it became one of the strongholds, economic strongholds of the world following the 1988. And because of this this position, they were able to develop their culture, which they've called K culture or Hallyu wave. So this is intangible, of course, but attached to the territory not only of Seoul, but of Korea. But most of these industries of K culture are based in Seoul, of course. I have also another example from the youth winter games. You know the youth Olympic winter games. They took place many times already, but in 2020 it was in Lausanne just before the COVID. And let's look at this matrix again. Now an example of tangible territorial, but not sport. Next little thing. Yeah, this is a building, as you can see. It was the Olympic Village of the 2020 Winter Youth Olympics. This is called the Vortex building. It's on the university campus. This is where all the athletes were housed. It's quite an interesting building, a round building, as you can see, with a big ramp. You can go around the ramp. There is a race, actually. You can go from the top to the bottom and race with others to win this Vortex race, it's called. And of course, this building is still there. It's still used now. It is not used as an Olympic village anymore, but as housing for students. If you come to Lausanne as a student or as a scholar for a visit or scholarly visit, you can have a room in this building. It's not housing all the students, of course, but it's quite an important addition, because housing is difficult in Lausanne for students, or more exactly, it is expensive. So this is a good place, very nice, very beautiful, which was built on the occasion of the Youth Olympics in 2020. Another example, sports, tangible, the uniforms. These are the uniforms of the volunteers. They all received this and kept it. Many of these volunteers didn't come from Lausanne or from Switzerland. They went back to their place, and therefore it is not territorial, it is personal, but it is tangible. This is something you can touch and you can reuse or give to someone else and so on. An example of intangible personal is all this volunteering work which developed after the Youth Olympics in Lausanne. On the left side of this picture with a yellow t-shirt, you see a volunteer. He still has a 2020 t-shirt, but different, and he helps a little kid to learn how to bicycle on a volunteer basis. This is something important, development of volunteerism, which happened following the Youth Olympics in Lausanne. And finally, something which is intangible but territorial, attached to the territory of Lausanne, is the fact that Lausanne is the Olympic capital. This is a branding that Lausanne uses in order to make it known to the world that it hosts many international federations, many sports organizations, also European federations in Lausanne or around Lausanne, like UEFA is based in Lyon, which is about half an hour from Lausanne, or UCI, the International Cycling Federation, which is based in Aigle, a little further, but also in not only Lausanne, but also the whole of Switzerland. But this is the branding they use for Lausanne, because maybe 60 international sport organizations are based in Lausanne. So this is, of course, it was not created by the 2020 Youth Olympic Winter Games, but it was expanded following this event, which took place in 2020, and which the IOC was very happy to organize in Lausanne, because nowadays it's difficult to find bidding cities, not only for the Youth Olympics, but also for the main traditional Olympics. So this is basically the framework I have proposed, and which is presented in the article we are going to discuss. I think this is the end of my presentation. Do I have another slide? It is important to mention this one, because following all this, the introduction of the word legacy in 2003 in the Olympic Charter, there was a new president of the IOC called Thomas Bach, elected in 2013, and he emphasized a lot the idea of legacy. And in 2017, a new definition of legacy was proposed by the IOC. It says Olympic legacy is a result of a vision. It encompasses all the tangible and intangible things, which you are aware, of course, but long-term benefits. Legacy is about long-term, initiated or accelerated. For example, this vortex building I mentioned, which is used as dorms nowadays for students, was in the plans for a long time, but it was accelerated. It was created and built a little earlier than, a little faster than it was planned because of the Youth Olympics taking place in Lausanne. And it is a legacy for the people, the city's territories, which was already mentioned in the past, if you want, but also for the Olympic movement. So incorporating this idea, which was proposed by the 2004 Athens Bid Committee, Legacy for Olympism. So this is why I'm talking about legacies in the plural, not only legacy in the singular, because there are many different types of legacy, up to 8 types, as I've shown in the framework, and also legacies for the Olympic movement. I'll give you 2 examples. I think I have added this slide, 2 examples of legacies for the Olympic movement. This is the next slide. No, it's not here. Or maybe the next slide. Well, the idea, no, it's not there. Sorry, the legacy for the Olympic movement is, for example, the fact that you have an Olympic village. The idea of Olympic village was created in Paris, 1924. and done at every Olympics since. This is something which didn't exist before. It's a legacy for Olympism, a legacy of the Paris 1924 Olympics. Another example is torch relay. Torch relay didn't exist until the Berlin 1936 Games, and since then it has been organized at every Olympics. And it can be said that the torch relay is a legacy of the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin. And as you have seen through the definition, the legacy is about long term. Don't talk about legacy. Sometimes people do, but it's wrong, I think. When you want for short term, when you want to talk about short term things followed, resulting from the games or accelerated by the games, you should talk about impact. And this difference between impact and legacy now is made by a lot of scholars. For example, Holt and Ruta, in a book they published a few years ago. This has a short-term benefits, the impact. And then you've got a long-term benefits, legacy. And even you can take the idea of very long-term benefits, and then you would use this word of heritage, patrimonio, patrimoine, which links to this idea of UNESCO World Heritage and Intangible Cultural List, which exists. It's following a treaty which was passed by UNESCO, and you have got in this list a lot of things proposed by each country, member of UNESCO, but it's almost every country of the world, but no sports events. Very surprisingly, you have a couple of sports disciplines, but you have no sports events. Although some sports events have been in existence for many, many years, like the Wimbledon tournament in tennis or the Boston Marathon. I'm sure in Brazil you have events which have, well, the corrida of Sao Paulo. It has been in existence for many, many years. I don't know when it was created, but it's so old now that you could use the word patrimonio, patrimoine, heritage, rather than legacy. And maybe it should be listed on this UNESCO list, but it is not. And this is why I have proposed to create another list, a list of heritage events. But so far, this idea has not been accepted. For the very long-term benefits, that's an extension of the idea of legacy to the very, very long term, more than 10 years, sometimes 50 years or 100 years. Okay, I think it's the end, unless, there are other examples, yes, okay, this is another story, but I have not discussed this in the article you want to discuss now. This is another article which talks about the importance not only of legacy, but of delivery. And this is the proposal of a framework called the Olympic Diamond, which I think is the next slide. Do you have the next slide, please? Yeah, the Olympic Diamond, which connects 4 dimensions: the objectives, the inputs, the outputs, and the outcomes. And applicable to the Olympics, this is the next slide. But again, it's another article, so we might not have time to discuss all these ideas. But this is the idea to link legacy, which we have discussed so far, with delivery. Because you cannot talk about legacy, there is no delivery. And so you have to start with delivery. You have to deliver the Olympics or sport events in order for you to discuss the possible legacy of the Olympics. The Olympics took place in Rio in 2016. It was delivered. And now you can talk about, well, right after you could talk about the impact. Now you can talk about the legacy because it's 10 years after the Rio. And maybe in 20, 30 years' time, you'll talk about the heritage, the patrimonio of the Rio 2016 Olympics. So thank you very much for your attention. And now we can start the question. I've spoken for a little too long, but ready for questions.
Thank you, Professor. So now we'll start the questions. Do you prefer doing it in blocks or each question at a time?
No, one after another. I think it's easier also for those who listen, so they can follow more easily.
Perfect. So I'm going to open the list here. And so the first question will be from Carlos. So be free to...
Yes.
Eu acho que o Augusto tinha levantado antes.
Ah, é porque aqui apareceu para mim na ordem. So you can go, Augusto, first.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Mas pode.
Okay. Good afternoon, Professor Chappelet. My name is Eugenio. It is an honor to meet you. I have read some of your work, including the classic and my favorite, From Olympic Administration to Olympic Governance. My question is, could the very first Olympic Games held in Athens in 1896 have sparked a war? For instance, it is possible that the surge of Greek national pride and unity generated by hosting the Games contributed, even indirectly, to the outbreak of the Greco-Turkish War just 1 year later in 1897, because Coubertin himself and other contemporaries raised this hypothesis. What do you think about it? Was that an unintended legacy of the Olympic movement from day one?
Yeah, I know this idea. It is possible that the Greek and the Turkish went to war 1 year after the Olympics in 1896 because of the Olympics, but it cannot be proven. It can be said, but it cannot be proven. Certainly, the Olympics, the first modern Olympics in 1896, improved the international situation of Greece. Greece at the time, well, the independence of Greece started in 1821, about one century before 1896, less even. So it was really a very young nation at the time. Athens was a rather small city, and the fact of hosting the Olympics and the popular support of this first modern Olympics was important for Greece, and especially for the Greek monarchy. The Greek monarchy was coming from abroad, was proposed by the Greek dynasty came from Denmark. And therefore, the different kings of Greece at the time, I think at the time it was King George, they needed to have legitimacy. And therefore, the Olympics offered them legitimacy because the Olympics is seen by the Greek people nowadays, but also at the time, as something very Greek. It is very Greek, and it is part of the legacy of Greece. I mean, going back to the ancient games in Olympia. So this was important to strengthen Great Greece. And because Greece was strengthened because of the modern Olympics, maybe they felt capable of going to war with Turkey, because Turkey was a big power at the time. In fact, it was called the Ottoman Empire, and it was really big. It was over Turkey, but down to Lebanon, Palestine, Egypt, and so on, even Saudi Arabia nowadays. So it is possible that this fact that Greece was strengthened by the Olympics made it stronger, or they felt stronger in order to go to war. But there were probably many other factors, many other political factors, territorial factors, political factors, economic factors. I don't know enough of the history of Greece to tell you, but the Olympics have a lot of powers, but maybe this is only one possibility. It's not the full story, I think, of this war between the Ottoman Empire and the new Greek Republic, or kingdom at the time, sorry. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so next one, Augusto, you can ask.
Gusto.
Okay, Julia. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity listening to you, Chapelet, Professor Chapelet. My name is Augusto.
Thank you.
And I am master student in education in the Federal University of Viçosa.
Mhm.
So my question is about the IOC. In your article, you show that the perception of mega events legacy changes according to different stakeholders and the social groups.
Yes.
And that these legacies can be both positive and negative. The IOC, in the Olympic Charter, emphasizes the idea of a positive legacy. However, when we see processes that produce negative legacy, especially for homeless and the low-income populations, such as gentrification, housing removals, and the social marginalization. Do you believe the IOC should take a more active and the interventionist role in world cities when these policies depend inequality and promote invisibility during the preparation of mega events?
Okay. The IOC could do more, maybe, but they are already doing a lot to promote legacy. And they wanted to do this because they were lacking bids. There were not enough bids for the Olympics. So they promoted this idea, which this is not, the Olympics are not only about 15 days of sport, but about the future, about what is left after the games, and therefore about the legacy. But it is true, as you said at the beginning, that the legacy depends a lot on the stakeholders. In the 2017 IOC definition of legacy, there are three stakeholders: people, that is a participant; the personal thing, the participant, the athletes, the volunteers, the officials, etc. Two, the cities and the territories, as I have mentioned in my framework. And third, the Olympic movement, the legacy for Olympism. So that's three stakeholders. But there are many more. For example, the media. The Olympics are often the opportunity for the media, the broadcasters in particular, to test new facilities, new ways of broadcasting. This was, for example, radio was first used in 1924 at the Paris 1924 Olympics. High television TV was used for the first time in 1992 Winter Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. So this is important for the media. Maybe it's not so important for other stakeholders. In my presentation, I talked about the vortex, which is very important for the students, of course, in Lausanne. But for people who don't need to be housed in Lausanne as a student, vortex is not that important as a legacy. So the importance of the legacy varies according to the stakeholder. And there are many stakeholders, but the main ones, the ones mentioned in the IOC definition, are the people, that is, I would say, athletes and participants, to the cities and territories, because nowadays it's not only a city, it is a territory around the city which organizes the Olympics, and 3, Olympism, that is themselves, for the IOC, for the improvement of the games over the years, like having an Olympic village, like having a torch relay, like having medals. Medals ceremony was introduced only in 1932. Before that, there was no medal ceremony as we know it today, with the 3 podiums, the podium of 3 positions, and so on. So each game introduces new things, and if these things are felt good by the IOC, they are continued after the games, and therefore constitute a legacy of these games.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Now, next one, we have Clarice. You can ask.
Okay.
Thank you, Julia. How are you? Hi, everyone. My name is Clarice. I'm a PhD student. It's a pleasure to be here and participate this moment. Professor, consider your insights on the intangible legacy of mega sports event. I would like to hear your opinion on how can athletes protest, such as the 1968 Olympic demonstration, be understood as part of the legacy, particularly regarding the social political impact and how the shape of the role of the athletes in promoting human rights at the Olympic Games. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, you refer to this 1968 protest by American athletes on the podium of the, I think it was a 400-meter relay, or a 400-meter race, and they raised their fist. This is the one you're talking about, yeah. And of course, this was the first time it was done. And there are a few other examples, but not many, because after this event, the IOC strengthened the regulation by forbidding the athletes to do such things, such a demonstration, as they call them, on the podium. At the time, these athletes, these American athletes, 2 American athletes, Carlos and Smith, were dismissed from the Olympic team of the US, and they had to leave the Olympic Village. They were not accepted anymore. Nowadays, the IOC and the United States Olympic Committee have realized that it was important that we could express their feelings regarding human rights and the treatment of African Americans in the United States and elsewhere. So the position on what they did has evolved, and it has evolved, I would say, with the time. At the time, 1968, it was deemed not acceptable by the IOC, by the United States Olympic Committee, by many media also wrote about it against, and now it is considered as one of the iconic moments of the Olympics. If of many books about the Olympics, they have this picture on their front cover. So it shows that what was not considered a legacy at the time can become a legacy of the 1968 Olympics. That is a possibility to protest. Except that the possibility to protest or demonstrate at the Olympics has been limited since then, simply because the IOC wants to protect its sponsors. As a previous president of the IOC, Thomas Barr, said the Olympics cannot be a marketplace of ideas. That is where everybody brings its own ideas and discuss about it. It should remain sport event mainly, and therefore the athletes are restricted in what they can do on the podium. Demonstration on the podium are in general not accepted on the podium. During ceremonies in general, opening, closing podium ceremonies, and also in the Olympic Village. Elsewhere, they can do whatever they want. They can speak about human rights, about sustainability or climate change. They can do it, but not on the podium and not during ceremonies and in the Olympic Village where a picture would be taken. But elsewhere they can. They can take a seat in the city, hosting the Olympics, and start talking to the media. It's possible, but not on the podium, not in ceremonies. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Perfect. So now, last but not least, we have Larissa. Lari, you can ask.
Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Larissa, and I'm a master's student in physical education at Federal University of Viçosa. It's a pleasure to speak with you. And in your text, you say that Olympic legacy is between the dreams created by mega events organizers and the real experience of local communities. So, could anti-Olympic resistance movements be understood as unintended legacy of the games, especially because they expose the contradictions between the IOC's idea of positive legacy and the social problems intensified by mega events? Or could be IOC also use this criticism to show that it's open to dialogue and change, especially at the time when few cities want to host the Olympics?
Okay. Well, we say the IOC, but it's an organization which was created in 1894, quite a long time ago, more than 130 years, and therefore it has evolved over the years, and it is continuing to evolve. Last year, they elected a new president, Kirsty Coventry, and we can see already that she's changing things. She is not going to do the same thing as her predecessor, and her predecessor did other things than his predecessor, and so on. So the IOC is evolving, and it is evolving with the times. Things which, like we discussed just before, like protests on the podium, which were deemed impossible in 1968, now are possible not on the podium, but in other places of the Olympics. So you must realize that the IOC is evolving, and it is evolving following pressure from society, pressure from all kinds of groups, civic groups in particular, especially those who are created when a city wants to host the Olympics or has already been awarded the right to organize the Olympics. So the answer is for the issue of evolution is dialogue. Of course, you mentioned the word dialogue between the people who are protesting and the IOC and the games organizers and so on. And I think the new president has created a spirit of dialogue. She, after her election, she created several working groups in an approach called Fit for the Future. She wants people to be able to discuss, especially athletes. If you look at the IOC website, it's a bit now late because it started already in 2025, but it's a process that continues to make the IOC fit for the future, that is to be adapted to the evolution of society. If an organization that does not adapt dies, If this is as simple as that. If it's the same for many organizations. I'm thinking about an example which is not from sport, but Kodak. You know the company Kodak? They used to be the leaders of film. They made millions selling films. And they invented the digital photography. In their labs, they had people who were smart enough and invented digital photography. But the leaders of Kodak at the time said, it's no good. We don't want it. We don't think it's a good idea. Let's continue to sell, what's it called? Film to produce paper photographs. And Kodak has almost disappeared nowadays because it didn't adapt. It felt that the future would be the same as the past. No, it doesn't happen. And this is why the IOC has to adapt. And this is why they have this fit for the future. We'll see more of what it is in June, because there is a big meeting here in Lausanne of the IOC, of the fit for the future. It will be a first step. There will be other steps probably, but there will be changes. Things which were done in the past will not be done in the future. Especially, for example, this is a bit controversial, but the competition in the women category, maybe you heard of this, which the rules are going to change in order to protect the women category, in order to make sure that only women participate in the women category, not male, which is unfair. So it's an important change. And I think it was produced by the changes that happened on the field in the athletics events, for example, following some athletes which took part in the women's category but were not women. Does it answer your question? Okay, good luck with your master. Good luck with your PhD thesis. I can answer a few more questions, maybe. Are there any?
Alguém mais tem alguma pergunta? Anyone else has any questions? I actually do have one.
Sure, go.
So we're talking about legacies, intangible, tangible, and I was thinking here that if the refugee team from Rio 2016 could be considered a legacy, and if so, in which of the categories would fit? Because, I mean, I wouldn't say it's territorial, but I wouldn't say it's personal. I don't know.
It's a legacy for Olympism. That is, it was the first time in Rio 2016. It had been proposed many times, but it was done for the first time in Rio, and it has been continued in Tokyo 2020 +1, and in Paris 2024, and it will be continued, as far as I know, 2028 and so on. So it becomes a legacy for the Olympic movement, for the games themselves. Whether it is tangible or intangible, sometimes I would say intangible, like the torch relay, like the Olympic Village, or the idea. It's not the fact that there is an Olympic Village, but the idea of an Olympic Village, or the idea of a torch relay, the idea of a refugee team is a legacy for Olympism. It is an intangible legacy, and it is not territorial. It's another. We would need another line. We have territorial, personal. A third line would be Olympism. That's a legacy, but I'm not mentioning it in my framework because this definition of the IOC came in 2017, and I proposed my framework in 2012, 5 years before. So we were not aware of this idea. But yes, this shows that legacy can be very wide, very multifaceted. Another example, I wrote about the fact of saying that the protection of the environment is important in the Olympics, in the Summer Olympics, but also in the Winter Olympics. Actually, it's an idea that comes from the Winter Olympics. And this is an idea that started in 1932 at the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid. There was already at the time, in 1932, there was a group, environmental protection group that was in existence in Lake Placid, which opposed the way the bobsleigh run was going to be built, and because it was going to fell a lot of trees, and they managed to have the organizing committee change the location and to therefore better protect the environment of the park where this bobsleigh run was to be built. 1932, and since 1932, almost every organizing committee has considered the protection of the environment important. But it's only 1994 that the IOC included it in the Olympic Charter, many years afterwards. But following a lot of pressure from not only the organizing committees, but also from the different groups protecting the environment, following the 1992 Rio conference, for example, the Earth Conference in Rio, which was a landmark, because before 1992, not many people talked about environmental protection and sustainable development. It started in 1992-94 at the IOC, and nowadays it's very important. It's every organizing committee says they are doing sustainable development, including the Rio 2016 Games. So it shows that legacy can be a lot of things, depending on which point of view you look at it. But certainly, the refugee team is a very good example, I think, of legacy for Olympism.
Amazing. Anyone else? Or no, I think we're good. I want to thank you so much, Professor, for being here with us today.
Okay.
For the talk and the answers. Hopefully we might do this another time. I don't know, with another text.
Why not? Please send me a picture and send me whatever documents you have. It was really a pleasure to talk to you and trying to explain all these ideas. These are, in fact, legacy is not a complicated idea, but it has been complicated by a lot of scientific publications and frameworks, which makes it complicated. But in fact, the very simple, maybe I finish on this, a very simple definition of legacy is what is left after the games. And it can be material, immaterial, but what is left? And can be personal and can be territorial, but what is left? And it's a question that every organizing committee of the Olympics, but also of other events, should ask themselves, because it's a big effort to put up a game, and it costs a lot of money, but it's a lot of effort it's a human resource effort. It's for the city also, it's a big change. And you don't want to do it only for 2 weeks of sports. You want to do it for the future and also for the future generations also. So what is left? This is the simplest and easiest definition of legacy. Short term, long term, very long term. Thank you. Enjoy the day, and it's morning for you. This is afternoon for me.
Yes,
but,
let's pose for the picture. So
yes.
Anybody who wants to.
Yes, please. I don't know if you can do it. I don't know how to do it myself because I don't use Google Meet, but.
It's okay. So are you ready, guys? Smiles. Yeah, I did it here from my computer. I may not have all of you on my screen. So if anyone else would like to do on your screen, that would be nice.
I have 9 people on my screen.
On mine, I have like 16, but I don't know if I got everyone. Okay, one more from a different computer. Smile.
No, I don't know how to do it, but if someone wants to do it, I can stay on.
Good. My sincerest thanks, Professor. I am Professor Dayara. I'm very proud of these guys here. Gabriel, who talked to you through email back and forth. Gabriel, thank you very much for everything you've done for our group. Julia, who's in Spain right now with Erasmus at the...
Oh, you're in Spain?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here
Not in
with...
Brazil.
Yeah, no, I'm here with Professor Peña.
Okay, Peña. Emilio.
Yeah, Emilio. So I'm really proud of all of these guys. Most of them here work with me as undergraduate or graduate students. So it's a great pleasure to hear you. We are all admirers of your work, and have a good day, guys.
Thank you. One last thing. I'm just thinking of it. I'll just add one little thing. Next week, on Wednesday, there is a conference in Montreal, because this is the 50th anniversary of the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. And it's you can look at it online. I don't have the address, but you will find it very easily. It's about, it will be in French, unfortunately. It's about the legacy of the Montreal 1976 Olympics. And I will make a presentation there on Wednesday. So if you speak French or you want to listen to some presentations, do not hesitate to look at the website.
We are all eager learners. Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye, guys. Have a great conference. Bye. Gabriel, you may stop the recording.
Yes, and send me the picture.